And welcome to Trauma Line Crash. On this week's podcast, we have a guest, Mark McCary, firefighter, medic, husband, father. How's it going, Mark?
Pretty good. That was a lot. That's a mouthful. You just spewed out.
Hey, you've been busy.
That's true.
So, why don't we just go ahead and kind of dive in? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Hello out there in podcast land. My name is Mark McCary. I'm a firefighter paramedic in the Cleveland area. I'm also an officer for a career fire department. And I currently work for two other fire departments part-time.
You sound busy.
A little bit.
So is that usual? It seems like I see a lot of firefighters that have more than one job.
That is usual. In Northeast Ohio, we have a lot of part-time departments, so you need a bit of experience to get full-time. So most of the guys work part-time. That's how they start their careers. But other parts of the country, it can be a little different. It might be volunteer or nothing at all. But in Northeast Ohio, that's pretty much how you do it.
Okay. All right. And how long you say you've been a firefighter?
23 years.
Wow, 23 years. Okay. How'd you get into firefighting?
Well, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor. But after doing some research to see how long doctors had to go to school, I was not with that. So I decided to try to find something else to do. And my mother, who was a nurse at the time, suggested I become an EMT. And the EMT program was only 16 weeks, and it was only about $400 twice a week. So I said, yeah, I could do that. So I looked into it, and actually the class was at the hospital that my mom worked at. And I went to class and fell in love with the profession.
Okay. Because now you were actually going to college for, was it physical therapy?
Yeah, I did go to college for physical therapy. That didn't work out, and I sort of stumbled into this, but I'm very happy with this career choice.
And for those who don't know, this is my brother, so that's why I know that. Okay. So you essentially took the class, got the bug.
Yes. Also in Northeast Ohio, 99% of the fire department, you have to be a paramedic and a firefighter. So being an EMT is the first step of becoming a paramedic. So after EMT school, eventually I did become a paramedic, which assisted me to getting full-time work.
Okay.
Because actually in Northeast Ohio, we probably have more paramedics per capita than anywhere else in the United States, just because all our firefighters are paramedics, majority.
Okay. Now, do they do that in Cleveland?
In the city of Cleveland, you have to be an EMT at minimum. So most of the department are EMTs. They do have some paramedics, but beyond the city of Cleveland, pretty much everybody else, you have to be a paramedic, unless it's a part-time department, which there are quite a few of those also.
Okay. So the city of Cleveland, do their EMS and fire run together?
They have two separate services. So they have EMS service and they have a fire service. But the fire service, they respond to medical calls as well as fire emergency. So they do both. And in the EMS service, they provide transport.
Okay. And they're both in the same station?
Yeah. They have them both in the same station, but there are some stations that are just fire.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Are there many places that do that?
It varies around the country. There are some places like Chicago. Chicago has two services, but they're both under the Chicago Fire umbrella, but they are still two separate services. So the EMTs and paramedics are not necessarily firefighters and vice versa.
So the paramedics in Chicago would never end up riding on the engine?
I mean, there are some that do, but very few. Most people just stay in one lane or the other.
Okay. How do you like that? Do you like the ability to do both, or would you rather just do one?
I like doing both. It gives you a variety, makes the shift go faster. If I had to pick one over the other, it would definitely be the fire side. But EMS, I like doing EMS. I mean, you get to make a difference on either side. And I think it takes a special person to be able to do both. That's not for everybody.
Okay. We're going to pause there because I messed up.
No problem.
I I'm recording all there. I'm recording there.
Yeah.
But for the podcast part, I'm not recording.
Okay.
So you got that? So we'll do that all over again.
Gotcha.
All right. And welcome to Trauma Why and Crash podcast. Today we have a guest, Mark McCary, firefighter, medic, father, husband. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing pretty good. That was a mouthful you just spewed out.
That's a lot because you stay busy.
I try.
That's good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your history?
All right. Hello out there in podcast land. My name is Mark McCary. I'm a firefighter and paramedic. I'm also an officer at a career fire department in Northeast Ohio. I've been doing so for over 23 years. I also work at 2 other fire departments part-time.
Okay, and now you do both. You're a firefighter and a paramedic, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Is that what most stations, most departments do in this area?
In Northeast Ohio, the majority of the fire departments, you have to be a firefighter and a paramedic, especially when you work in the suburbs. And that's just because they don't have as much manpower as bigger cities, so it just gives you more flexibility, allows you to be a little more efficient if everybody can do everything. But for example, City of Cleveland, they have 2 separate services.
Okay, all right. So Cleveland runs it different. Do they run out of the same station? So you have medics and firefighters, and they're separate.
They are 2 separate services, but all the firefighters are at least EMTs. They do have some paramedics, and then obviously on the EMS side, they have EMTs and paramedics. So the firefighters can do both medical and fire-related emergencies, and the EMS people, they do just the EMS stuff.
Okay, all right. So how did you end up becoming a firefighter medic?
Interesting question. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor, but after doing some research and seeing how much school they had to go to and how often they got sued, I wanted to pursue something else. I also looked at being a physician's assistant, but my mom suggested that I take an EMT course that they're offering at her job. My mom was a nurse, by the way. So I went to research about the class. It was only twice a week and 16 weeks, $400. And that was something I could handle at the time. So I went to EMT class and fell in love with the profession.
So you got the bug.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Tell me about how's it feel being a black firefighter?
Well, being a black firefighter is an interesting position. Obviously, there were times when it was difficult for African Americans to get hired, and in some situations that's still prevalent. But in my experience, I had a lot of people supporting me. I had a lot of people go out of their way to help me along the way. So that was very instrumental in me getting to the position I am today. But I do feel like being a black firefighter, you're a role model. I feel like little kids look up to you. Everybody loves the big fire trucks rolling by. So, it's up to me to try to leave something for others.
That's good. So when you talk about your mentors, those mentors would be both black and white.
That's correct.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. I'm sure everybody likes to ask you this question. What's the worst thing you've ever seen? I know I get that all the time when I tell them I work in the ER.
Yes, that question is, they also ask, do we have a fire pole and have I ever saved the cat out of the tree? So to the question of my worst call, I've had some pretty interesting calls. The worst. I did have a call where 5 people got shot at one time. That was probably one of our best calls. So we had to respond to a neighboring community. They called us for help because they had 5 people shot at a hotel party. And the person that my squad ended up taking care of was shot 5 times, but none of them were critical. He was walking and talking. He was in pretty good shape, especially to be shot 5 times.
Well, that's good to hear. But one of the things I do want to share is just to kind of let y'all know, if you really, really think about it, don't ask like trauma surgeons, docs, nurses that work in the ED, police, fire, what's the worst case they ever had? Because their worst case is probably one of the reasons why they have post-traumatic stress. And even if they don't have that, it still brings them stress to relive the worst moment of your life. So I probably wouldn't ask people, what was the worst moment of your life? I mean, it is your professional life, but we're in professions that are really bad. So just kind of think about that. It might be interesting to you, but it might be horrific. You just ask them about something that could be horrific. And if he tells you one of the most horrific stories you ever heard, what is going to be your response?
Right. It might be better to ask, what was your best call?
Yeah, or what was your most interesting call?
Yeah, that might be a little better.
Because if you ask me that and I talk to you about having to code a 5-day-old and how traumatizing that was and how I'll never forget that baby, that kind of changes the mood. You might have been happy to see me, and then after I talk about that, I drop that into the conversation. What are you going to say? What's going to be your retort?
Right.
So just in general, people, you probably don't want to do that. Now, within the community, we talk about things different because that's exactly what somebody would say. What was your best call? What was your best case? What was your best case in the trauma room? That's what they'll ask. They don't necessarily ask me my worst. They want to know what has rocked me mentally. They want to know what was the case where you knocked it out the park and you made a save.
That's true. Most people's worst case, unfortunately, ends up being the child, not making it. So, yeah, that's a pretty loaded question.
Yeah. And a lot of times we don't think about those things. If you ask me about my best cases, I'll tell you cases that I had where people were supposed to die. And if you was watching it and it was a movie, you'd be like, yep, they gonna die. And we pull it out and we save that person. That's the stuff I like to talk about. I don't want to talk about the dark stuff. But speaking of the dark stuff, one of the things in this world that we have to deal with is that, we're both in professions where that's what we deal with. We deal with people on the worst days of their lives. How do you deal with that?
Well, that is true. A lot of times we do deal with people on the worst day of their life, and everybody just needs to have a release. Some people work out, some people, have some type of hobby that they're into. Some people want to talk about it, talk to their spouse or whatever support system that they have. For me, usually, working out can help. I do have a good support system, and sometimes, just the guys will talk about a bad call. Let's talk about what we could do better. But most of the time, no matter what I go through, it doesn't bother me that much. I just push through it and try to do my best. And it makes me feel better, knowing if I, did my very best and could do as much as I could, that makes me feel better even if it was a bad outcome.
Okay. So, one of the things you just mentioned in that was almost like a crisis debriefing. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, normally, whenever we have a major call, we always go over the call. Sometimes we'll go over it right there at the scene, but usually the next shift, we'll do a tabletop and just go over things that went well, things that went not so well. How can we improve things? Because you can always get better. Even if it goes perfect, you can still do it better. You can be more efficient. So we do that with every major call.
That's great. In my world, we don't do that nowhere near as much as we should. We've had some times that we've really done, but with my experience working in a major trauma center, being as busy as it is, we should have done it more, and hopefully they continue to improve and work on that, because it does make a difference.
It does.
Because one of the things you said that we all have to be careful on is it didn't bother me. While it didn't outwardly bother you, you still felt some stress from it. But if you have a good support system and you're using them, I think that's one of the things that helps make a difference so that it doesn't really affect you as it like if you were spending lots of time alone and just dealing with it yourself.
That's true. And then sometimes we're always in the mindset of helping others, even if it's your crew. I'm an officer, so it's my job to make sure my crew is good, and I'm thinking about myself last. So, people have gotten on me like, hey, make sure you take care of yourself too. But, we're all about the team. And I think it's a little easier for us to debrief like that because we work with the same people all the time. And, when we have some downtime or, time we can just sit and nothing's going on, we can, do that. I think if you're in the ER setting, it's more difficult for you guys to get together because you got patients coming constantly.
Yes, and that is one of the things that's kind of different a lot with the ED is, if you have bad trauma, you get a couple bad traumas come in on arrest, you got more right behind it. You got to keep on going. But one of the things that I feel like that makes it hard on people in our professions is one of the things you just said when you were talking about how you have to push on. And, that is true, but we really, really, really need to make sure that our support system's in place and that we use it because we all have a problem. Our biggest problem is almost all of us go into careers like this because we want to help people. So we're more selfless than selfish. So sometimes the last person we take care of is ourselves.
That's true.
I know. That's the pot calling the kettle black because I know.
Right.
But one of the things I figured out in the middle of doing all that was I was in a position where I couldn't go down. And when I realized I could not go down, it made me realize I gotta be able to take care of myself because I can't help nobody.
Well, recently we had an apartment fire and we had quite a few crews from different cities there to assist us. And I was in charge of the fire floor, and I had to walk through and make sure everything was okay after the fire was out. And I was sending crews out to rehab, and a chief from another department that I also work for this other department, so he's my chief also. He would not come out until I came out. I was sending everybody out to rehab, and I was going to stay in just to keep an eye on things until the crews came back in. And he was saying, I'm not going out till you go out. So if you want to get out of here, if you want everybody out, you're going to have to come out too. So he would not go out until I came out. So, stuff like that. But he's the same way. We have to get on him about making sure he takes care of himself because he'll just go and not worry about himself.
Yeah. And I could tell you there were times when you would look at me in the trauma room, I'm whipping in, helping real quick and whipping back out. I have on all my PPE. No. If I look in there and they're having a problem and they need some help, I jump in. But as I'm jumping in, I'll quick to be looking at you and go, how come you ain't got your face mask on? Now these patients puke or stuff gets in your face or get in your eye. Get your stuff on. And I worked hard at not doing that and trying to be more prepared. So one of the things I started doing was making sure I had stuff handy. So if I did see something or if I peeked in the trauma room, make sure they were okay or whatever, I could jump in safely. But COVID really changed that because now it's all about your PPE. It made people who kind of blow off PPE really, really pay attention to that a little bit more. How is it for you and everyone in the EMS world?
Well, it has definitely changed the playing field. The way we do things is a little bit differently now. We also have to take more care and be more detailed with our cleaning. We're already good at cleaning, but we have to take extra steps now. So calls take a little bit longer to prepare for, and they also take longer to recover from. And then being an officer, I have to make sure that the guys are protected and they're doing what they're supposed to do. But in lieu of that, I also have to make sure I'm doing the same thing. I can't get on the guys about not using PPE if I'm not using PPE correctly. So I make it a mental note to try to make sure I'm doing the right thing so I can help motivate them to do the right thing. And we got to look out for each other.
Okay. And now a quick note from our sponsor. McCary Cares Consulting is a company that helps make sure that you're prepared. We can help you with your needs. First aid kits from small IVACs to full-size trauma bags with bamboo bag, oral airways, and things like that in it. We have it all. We carry dog first aid kits from regular master bags, which is a waterproof bag that you can take with you on walks and anywhere you go. It has anything you could think of that you might need for your dog, all the way to canine kits for our canines who are out there in harm's way. We even have chest seals for our canine kits. So please go to McCary Cares Consulting and see how we can help you. All right, back to our show. So, what do you feel that COVID has changed the most in your job?
Well, like I was saying earlier, we have to take more time to be prepared on calls. One of the departments I work for, we wear APRs, which is air purifying respirators. So when we're arriving at the scene, you have to make sure you have your APR on. You have to glove up. And if it is a confirmed COVID case, then we'll wear shields and gowns also. So it can take time to prepare all that stuff before you enter the scene. So it definitely, like I said, changes the way we do things. And then after each call, we have to wipe down the cot, wipe down the back of the squad. You want to decontaminate yourself. We've had area fire departments that had these cleaning scanners that we can take the squads to, and they use infrared to clean the back of the squads. That's something we never did before. So cleaning has just been, such a huge part of what we do before, but it's an even bigger part now.
Okay. All right. So, let's talk about your book.
All right.
Tell us the title and what's it about.
The name of the book is Our Neighborhood Firefighters. It's a book about Black firefighters, specifically Black males. And the reason I'm writing this book is because some years ago, I bought a book about firefighters. It was about 300 pages. It was red leather with gold leaf on it. It was a beautiful book. And after reading it, there was about a page and a half about Black African-American firefighters in it, which bothered me because we played a major part in the fire service. So I felt like there was a void there. So instead of just complaining about it, I decided to try to do something about it. So that inspired me to start writing a book.
Okay. And so in this book, what do you talk about?
Well, each page will be a different person that's doing a feature on a different person. So there'll be a picture of a firefighter, either in their Class A uniform or their firefighting gear. And then underneath there'll be a bio, and it'll talk about what department they work for, how many years they've been on the job. And it'll also describe their best day on the job and their worst day on the job. Now, one cool thing is that everybody's best and worst day will be different. That's one of the things that drew me towards doing it that way, is because each bio will be so different. For some guys, it might be, I worked the overtime shift and didn't have any calls. That might be their best day. Or the first day, their family saw them in their uniform. I mean, it'll be a variety of answers. But it also has a twofold purpose, because it'll appeal to smaller kids and to teenagers. The little kids will be able to just flip through the book and just see the pictures of all these different firefighters from all over the country. And then the teenagers will be able to read the bios and learn about our trials and tribulations. So I think it brings a lot of diversity to this an area that I felt like was a void there. So I'm just trying to fill the void.
Oh, we appreciate that. Now, it almost sounds like a whole bunch of mini stories.
Yes.
To help let people know that you're out there and there's a lot of you out there making a difference.
Yes, my plan is to donate the books to inner city schools. All the proceeds from the book will just go back into buying books so I can donate them to more schools. And hopefully, if it goes well, it'll be the first of many because I have some other ideas about some other books I like to do.
Okay. And what's the name of the book again?
Our neighborhood firefighters. It's not out yet, but it should be out before the end of the year.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Sure. I'd like to talk about a little bit about how to become a firefighter.
Oh yeah. You know what? We didn't cover that. So tell me about that.
Sure. In different parts of the country, it can vary a little bit, but the basic premise is the same. A department will be interested in doing a hiring, and they will do an announcement for a test. So you'll go take a written test, and then after taking a written test, you'll take a physical agility test. A physical agility test would have you doing different activities firefighters would do on the fire ground, and it'll test your strength and stamina. And then after you take those two tests, depending on the city, you may have to take a polygraph test, or they'll definitely do a background on you and possibly an interview. And then, you can get hired in the position. Now, there are some other ways. Larger cities, they might do a test, and it's just for that city. But recently in our area, we did a regional test. And in the regional test, it was about 7 or 8 fire departments all looking at the applicants to take the test. So there's a variety of ways you can, become a firefighter. Some tests nowadays, they want you to have the firefighter training and the paramedic training before you take the test. Back when I was taking tests, you didn't need any training at all. So you could just walk right off the street and take the test. And then the department that hires you, they will send you to all the school that you need. But currently in our area, they want you to be a firefighter already and be a paramedic already. And you can get those certifications by going to a technical school or a community college. You can pick up those certifications.
Okay. So is that your 240 card?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's 260 now, but it was 240 in my day.
Okay, it's 260 now. I didn't know that.
But larger cities, they want you to do everything their way. So, for example, City of Cleveland or like City of Columbus, you take their test, you don't need any training, and then they will train you to be an EMT, paramedic, and firefighter. But like I said, some of the smaller cities, they want you to have all those certifications already. And as you move about the country, it can vary a little bit also. Some places will have a county test where you just take one test, and all the fire departments in the county, when they need people, they look at the eligibility list and they just pull off the list. So there's a lot of different ways to become a firefighter.
That seems really, really efficient.
It is efficient. However, if you don't do well on the test, now
You're done.
You're done. But if each individual city is given a test, it gives you more chances to try to do well.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that would kind of be bad. If you took the test and you didn't do well, you don't get a chance to take another one for a while.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Again, what was the name of the book one more time?
Our Neighborhood Firefighters.
All right. We will come back and let you know when that is out. A couple of reminders. Please hit that like and subscribe to our channel. Give us a comments. Tell us what you think. We are really, really looking forward to seeing what all you want to see so that we can give it to you. I'm really trying to cover anything in the healthcare, EMS type world. So please let us know. All right? And thanks again. We'll see you next time.